Welcome to Night Callers Archives. Before Night Callers became a vidcast on YouTube and Facebook, it was a live call-in show on Blog Talk Radio. We did things a little differently back then. It was a different time in the Bigfoot world. There were only a few podcasts, and Bigfoot was still taboo to talk about. We didn't have the TV shows, hundreds of Bigfoot groups and conferences, or funny memes that we have now. They were different times, folks. We've had many amazing hosts and knowledgeable guests over the years that helped get the Bigfoot community to where it is now. We hope you enjoy these older shows, as they are a phenomenal source of information and good times. If you hear a guest or host that you would love to see back on the current Night Callers, please drop a comment. Enjoy the show.
Blog Talk Radio.
My name is Laurie Phillips, and I'm so glad you're all here. Anyway, we are really, really glad that all of you are here. I'm about to float away here in Texas. It has rained for a solid week. We did need rain, but I'm just sick of rain. It wasn't even supposed to rain today or yesterday, and it's still raining. So anyway, that's what's going on with me, and I'm going to hand it on over to my co-host, Tennessee Cherokee. How are you doing today, Tennessee?
I'm doing fine. The weather's finally took a turn for the better, I think. It's warming up here in Tennessee, and I think maybe this next week coming up here, this is the new week, this is Sunday, that we're going to get maybe spring a week early, I hope. Hi, everybody, and I want to thank everyone out there for tuning in to Night Callers. Tonight we are very blessed to have as our special guest a man who is synonymous in the history of research of the forest giants and who has garnered many accolades throughout his exemplary career. He is a veteran of the U.S. military, a brilliant author, film director, narrator, and skilled researcher. Ladies and gentlemen, please help me welcome tonight's guest, Mr. Robert W. Morgan.
Well, thank you so very much. Believe me, it's fun and pleasure to be with folks like you, and I wish the world had a lot more just like you, and also your listeners, because if your listeners are listening, that means they're similar to you, and that's good.
Oh, they are. They're all great people, Robert. They are great people, and they're like us. Me and Tennessee, we just want to learn, and we just never will quit learning, and that's the main reason why we do this show, is so we can learn about people and make new friends, and I'm just delighted to have you here, and I'm going to shut up now and let you talk.
Oh, no. The day we stop learning, we might as well curl up our toes, because it's all over but the shouting, Yes, and anyone who gets bored with life really has a problem, because there's so much to know and so much to learn and so much to share. And I still, I'm 73, I still can't figure out what I'm going to do when I grow up. Really, I don't know what I'm going to be, because I find very few things that I don't dive into, and I want to know. I want to know everything. So people say, I don't know what I'm going to... Get out of my face. There's so much in this world to do. And this is one of the things that brought me into the forest giant research. Because, I don't know, do you know how I got involved in it at all?
Yeah, a little.
Go ahead.
I know that you were in the military and your first sighting was in Mason County, Washington, right?
Right. And I was in the Navy. Our ship, we'd just come back from a Far East cruise, and we put in the dry dock in Bremerton, Washington. And I'm a very healthy guy, but spending 9 months in a ship with 2,000 sailors, all males, gets a little boring. You know what I mean?
Oh, wow, yeah.
Yeah. So when we put in the dock, this kid beat feet. Man, I wanted to get off alone, and I really did, And so I book off, and I love the mountains. I love nature and all that sort of thing. So I got up there, and I took a rifle with me, and I pretended I was bear hunting. I wouldn't hurt a bear on a bet, but I took it along. No, I like bears. They're nice people. Anyway.
Bears are people too.
Like Smokey and Yogi and all of them. Yeah, go ahead.
Oh yeah, you know him too? Yeah. See, I live up here in Montana, and people don't believe me, but it's true. I have about 22 deer around my house, which I've become friends with, and from time to time bears come down. I'm in Whitefish, Montana, right outside of Glacier Park, and one morning I woke up and there was a bear taking a nap on my deck, and yeah, I love it. I love it when nature, when animals, wild animals, trust you. It's the biggest compliment in the world. It really is. Well, anyway, here I go. I'm an Ohio kid from a steel town. I didn't know what a cow looked like until I was 12 or 13, something like that. Somebody showed me a cow, and I said, I'm drinking milk out of that thing? What the hell did I know? You got to be kidding me, man. I ain't drinking no more milk out of that, man. That thing's ugly. Anyway, it's hairy, too.
And it's warm.
Yeah, well, I don't know that. I don't get anywhere near it, What do you mean, moo? I don't understand that language. So anyway, when I get up into this mountain, all I wanted to do was be left alone. I had a buddy of mine. He went on one side of the mountain. I went on the other. And that's when I heard something coming down the slope behind me and went into a group of bushes and things. And I thought, what in the heck? It's making not a lot of noise, but moving around. And then I started seeing flashes of black hair. I thought, Lord love a duck, that's a bear. He's between me and the car. So I did. So I back up, and I'm looking and I'm watching and watching. Finally, after about, I don't even know how long, it seemed like an eternity, I figured, I got to get this show on the road, man. I got to know what this thing is. So I stepped out and I yelled. I don't know. I think it was past the toilet paper. I'm not sure. Anyway. Anybody got a diaper?
Did you check your britches?
Oh, man. So anyway, but I levered a shell into the weapon. It was a 30-30 carbine, and I stepped out in dead silence. And when I've heard this thing that you could cut silence with a knife, that's no kidding. And all of a sudden, it started to move, and I automatically started tracking it with the weapon. But I don't shoot something unless I know exactly what it is or if there's a problem. So I'm tracking it, and it got about 30 yards away, something like that. And it turned around, and I saw it from the waist up, and it was. Now, remember, I'm a kid from Steeltown. I don't know what animals look like. I don't know I hadn't been to a zoo, but I'd seen pictures. And to me, I was looking at a gorilla. I mean, this sucker was big. He was hairy. He was black skin, black hair. And he turned around, and we stared at each other. And I must say that first it was consternation on his face. And it was, I think it was surprise, like, where in the world did this little white monkey come from? And I'm looking at him, and I'm saying, my God, it's gargantua, So we stared at each other for a while. And then this dude, and I can't tell you, honestly, to this day, I can't tell you. Take a hypnotherapist, I think. I don't know who left first, but I think it was me. And, And I disappeared. I circled around. I got back to the car, and I booked out of there in no time flat. And I found a gas station and a roadside little cafe, and it had an outside telephone. And I called. First, I called the State Highway Patrol. They passed me off to the Sheriff's Department. And I got the impression that they were going to send somebody out with little white coats for this. Yeah, because I'm telling them that there is a gorilla loose. Okay? And I said, don't you understand? Did you guys have a circus near here? I'm telling you, man, one of the gorillas is out here. Whew, that guy's big. And, of course, you know, they said, right, stay right where you are. Don't get too excited, and we'll send some nice people to help you. Uh-huh. Well, I got my little tush back to the ship in no time flat. And I start telling, yeah, get me out. So I tried to tell the folks aboard ship, and of course everybody thinks I'm kidding, right? And so I did like any other.
You were probably a big kidder anyway, weren't you, Robert? You were always.
Who, me? Oh, no, not me. No, oh, no. I've always been dead serious, yeah. And so finally I learned to just shut the hell up. But I know what I had seen. So I go back, I get discharged, I go through college, I get my degree, yada, 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 and this stuff. I end up in Washington, D.C. At age 20, by the time I was 27, I had the maintenance and certification responsibility for the entire computer complex in Washington, D.C. for the FAA. I mean, I did fairly well, good education. But I kept thinking about this. And I finally read an account. I can't remember. It was in True Magazine. It's a magazine no longer around. But they had mentioned the Bigfoot up in Northern California. And when I saw the drawings, I said, oh, Lord love a duck. That's what I'd seen.
That's what you saw.
Yes.
How many years later was this from the time you actually saw one to you?
Oh,
10,
God.
15 years maybe?
See, 1956, about that, 56 or 57, something like that. And this would have been 1962 or 63, something like that.
So that many years passed before you actually saw any kind of article.
Confirmation.
Yeah.
Confirmation.
I kept looking for an escaped gorilla. Nobody, you know. But anyway, but I knew at the same time. By this time, I had researched a bit about gorillas, and I looked at that and I said, that's not what I saw, because of the slope of the forehead and things like this. And I have to tell you, oh God. I read everything. I study constantly everything, comparative anatomy, you name it. If I don't know anything about it, I grab a book and I check it out. It's just my nature.
Wow.
Yeah. It's how anyone can be bored in this world is beyond me, because there's so much to know and so much to learn. And I still can't, 73, I still can't figure out what the hell I'm going to do when I grow up. I got to do something. I don't,
Well, I'm laughing because I am just the same way, and you don't really want to grow up. I don't.
No, I don't. Well, I don't have time to grow old.
I don't either. No.
And the only thing I am that I can tell is socially retarded. There's nothing I can do about it. But
then you're in good company.
Yay! So anyway. What I did was sneaky. I knew after I mastered my degree, I mastered my position. As soon as I've learned everything there is to know, it's time to move on. And the federal government does not encourage people to think outside of the box. They want robots. So what I did is I created a computer program. And I decided, okay, these people do exist. I already decided they were people because of the comparative anatomy. There's no gorilla has an opposing thumb. No gorilla has the helix, the big toe. No gorilla has the maximus glutamus, our buttocks that are as big as ours. They don't habitually walk erect, and they don't have an articulated speech program. So I'm feeding all this stuff into the computer, right? And what I did is I went in and I got all the legends and stories that I could find. And I fed them into the computer, and then I did a comparative chart on the areas that remain most wild, that had not materially changed since the time of Native Americans. And I came up with a whole bunch of them. So I chose an area on the south area of the south slopes of Mount Adams in the state of Washington There's a diamond-shaped area. It goes from Mount Rainier in the north to Mount Hood in the south, Mount St. Helens on the west, and Mount Adams on the east. And I said, this area is possible. So I put together, I was going to go by myself, and two of my buddies, and by this time I'd quit the FAA, I guarantee you that. And, yeah. I'm one of the list. Yeah. Get out of my way, sucker. And anyway, I go down there, and I put together this trip, and I'm going to go out by myself. Well, two guys heard about what I was doing. They decided to go with me. Okay, fine. Well, we went out, and I'm not joking here. This is dead serious. The first night we had arrived, which was, oh, God, I can't remember the exact spot. But anyway, I'd have to get a map. It's been a long time. The first day we were driving up, and I drove my truck and our camper to the end of this, where the snow was so high on either side, I had to get up on top of the camper to be able to get above the snow. It was that deep.
Wow.
Well, yeah, but guess what? We found hominid barefoot tracks in the snow. There was a large one trailed to the side by a smaller one, heading towards Sleeping Woman Mountain on our very first day there. And that's what good homework and research can do for you. So we
find triangulation.
Yes. So we went further in the next day, and I've got photographs. I photographed the whole thing, where we're pulling a sled and we're going in and we're on snowshoes and all this stuff. We camped out beside a creek. It was starting to melt. This is in March. And we camped out in the middle of the night. We heard a snuffling, snorting sound coming from over the top of this one snowbank. Well, being the macho guys that we were, we didn't move. You go check it out. No, you go, man. You're the director. No, I ain't going. You go. You know, this kind of thing. So the next morning, we got up, and we went over, and we looked, and there was no tracks because there was a melted spring, a creek. So we thought, it sounded like a horse snuffling. So we continued on up the trail, and as the road under snow started to cross a stream, we came across barefoot hominid tracks coming out of the stream, up onto the road, turned around, walked back in, headed downstream. He went back into the creek. Well, here's what we found out about a week later. Because we continued on our trek, we got into a whiteout. We had some serious problems, and we finally got out. I ended up freezing my feet and my cheeks. Oh yeah. Well, you know, that's okay. They'll grow back. Yeah, I'll get new ones next life. Anyway, we got out, and I went down, and of all things, we discovered that there had been a sighting at the mouth of that creek of a forest giant. Just 2 days after we had gone up, yes. And there had been a sighting, and it was an area where the Native Americans hang out, and they do a lot of fishing at this creek. It empties into the Columbia River. Okay, so now we know that the snuffling, snorting sound that we heard and the tracks belong to a forest giant. So by this time, my feet were pretty bloody and frozen. So were my cheeks, and the other guys were in bad shape too. So we went to Stevenson, Washington, and we pulled in there to a motel, and I'm nursing my feet, and I noticed when we went for breakfast, there were guys all over the place. Man, they were everywhere with rifles and guns. And I thought, what the hell? And we're having breakfast, and this guy's making a round of the tables. He's going from table to table to table, talking to people. Finally comes over to us. He says, you out here hunting the Bigfoot? I said, huh? What you talking about, Willie? You know.
Yeah.
Well, it turned out that this man was a man by the name of Conrad Lundy, L-U-N-D-Y. He was the commissioner for Skamania County. And he said, there was a Bigfoot sighting down here by Signal Rock. And all these hunters have come out from Portland. and they're out to kill it, and this is wrong. And he's staring at us, and I'm jumping up and saying, you're right. It's dead wrong. I said, what the hell? Why don't you stop him? He said, I can't stop him. I said, why not? He says, it's not against the law. I said, well, why the hell don't you, you're the commissioner, create one. And this guy's staring at me. He said, would you mind following me down the road here? Sure. So we went down and we met the editor and the owner of the Skamania County Pioneer. Okay, Roy Kraft was this guy's name. Okay, so we go in, and this is like stepping back into film noir 1930s. This guy,
wow.
Oh yeah, he had the celluloid sleeve protectors. He had the celluloid little cap, with the beak on it, and he had a cigarette. Yeah, the ashes were longer on his cigarette than the cigarette was, and yeah, he was really unique, man. I wish I'd taken a picture of that sucker. Anyway,
and he was talking with a cigarette in his lips the whole time, and the ash was staying on there.
Bing! Oh, you were there. You were there. So,
I've seen people do that.
Yeah. So I go in there, and Conrad said, he said, Roy, you got to meet this screwball here, So I laid out my case, and Conrad said, look, he said, I can't introduce this thing. What do you think, Roy? Roy says, I'll sponsor it. And what happened in the long run, it became the first ordinance ever passed in America to protect the forest giants against wanton slaying with a $10,000 fine. And that was the Skamania County ordinance. And that's how it came about. Well, now, here's the secret. Yep. Now, here's the secret to it. I found out later who Roy Kraft really was. Roy Kraft had been a public relations guy in Hollywood and had worked there for years. He had a client that he felt had been murdered. And he said he was so disgusted that he moved to Stevenson, bought the newspaper, and all he wanted to do was fish the rest of his life. Guess who his client was?
Who?
Marilyn Monroe.
Oh,
really?
Yep.
I love Marilyn.
Yep.
Wow.
Roy Kraft was this guy's name. Absolutely.
Wow.
I've been so fortunate in my life that I've stumbled across the neatest people, but it's been sheer accident,
Well, it was meant to be. It was meant to be for you to run across these people. And something? It's a small world, isn't it?
Oh, my God. Oh, it is so small, it's almost on the point of being scary. It is a small world. Roy, of course, passed away, as they say. I keep saying died. No, he passed away. No, he died. What's the matter with you? I mean, it's okay to die. Don't worry, you'll be right back. So, what's this passed away? Like you went to sleep? No. The body died. The soul lives on. So anyway, they've taken some heat up there in Skamania County because a lot of people made fun of it. And so they now say, oh, no, that was just as a joke. It was not a joke. It was dead serious. Absolutely dead serious. But anyway, that's how that ordinance came about for any I hope your listeners are still awake. Hello, you guys. Are you still there? No. Okay.
Yeah, they're all there.
Listening.
I know you guys are. I'm talking about the listeners. So anyway, that's how that came about, and it was serious, absolutely dead serious. And I was really proud to know him. But that's what drew me back to Skamania County. I spent a lot of time in Skamania County, but not around Stevenson. I moved much further north, which is where I did most of my work. But a huge forest fire came through, and then, of course, the eruption of Mount St. Helens really... I know the gods get angry at me, but that was a little overblown. They didn't have to do that.
Yeah, that kind of just really wrecked your area, didn't it?
It sure did. Yeah. And do you remember the sightings way up toward the Canadian border? Was it Bossburg or someplace where they had a cripple foot? They called it a cripple foot.
Yes.
Well,
I do remember that.
Oh, good. Well, I'll tell you what. A little secret. 180 miles south west of it, I found the same tracks. along Swift Creek, or on the other side of Swift Creek. Yeah. So this tells you a little bit more about their range.
Right.
It's much more extensive than what people think. It really is. So anyway, that's a little story.
You would classify them as kind of a nomad in a way, wouldn't you? These people?
Well, nomadic in a sense, but I think they travel in small family units, and I think the units are familial, and but they do come together. You know, brothers, sisters, aunts, uncles, have other clans, and they do come together from time to time. I discovered this especially in Ohio, because Ohio is fairly densely populated in comparison, of course, to Montana and the state of Washington. But back there, a friend of mine and I, who was a professional recording engineer, I accidentally got too close to them one time. They got really ticked off. They were very, very angry at us. I mean, they won't hurt you or anything like that. People that go out there with guns are out of their blinking minds.
There are a lot of people that think they will hurt you, though.
That's absolute non. You know what that is? That's this machoism thing with a lot of men who feel that, and honest to God, this is going to insult some people, but tough luck. The best researchers I've ever worked with in the field that are more concerned with the preservation and coming into deliberate contact with the forest giants are women.
Thank you.
They are. Yes, they are, Robert.
No, it's absolutely true. Men, for some reason, I think it goes back in our genes, we always feel naked in the woods unless we're armed. And I had a tough time, too, disarming myself by going out there. It's in the genetics, because the males were the protectors of the clans as far back as we can go in our history. The men were charged with this, and the women were the gatherers, and they were the keepers of the flame, and they raised the children. But I've cured myself of that, and I've found that I act differently in the woods when I do not have a weapon with me. I'm much more.
It humbles you. It humbles you.
Yeah.
You have only your own wit and senses.
Yeah.
Yes.
Now, in Montana, I must admit, you have to be a shy bit careful. I don't worry that much about black bears, but grizzly bears have no sense of humor whatsoever. I think they were born kicked off. I'm not. So
they and cougars too.
Yeah.
Cougars are interesting creatures, highly intelligent, but they're sneaky as hell. They always attack from behind. And I discovered that by not constantly, but turning around on your path from time to time is a smart thing to do. Because it makes them nervous because they can't sneak up on you.
Well, the bad thing about a cougar is that they're so strong that they will kill you, break your neck, and drag you up in a tree and eat on you when they get ready to.
Yeah, they'll
gnaw on you when they get ready.
Thank you for that graphic.
Yeah. Well, they are net biters. That's true. They come up from behind and they will. But the thing is, they in a sense they're cowards. In a sense, because they like to pick on children as opposed to adults. And so if you're ever out in the woods, I would suggest, here's what I suggest to anybody that has children, is let your wife go first. You go first. But you let her go first, then the children, and then the male comes behind. That's the best protection you can have against a cougar.
That makes sense. That really does. But
the funny thing about the forest giants is that they are quite benign. They are omnivorous, obviously. We've gone through their fecal matter, things like this. We know what they eat and all this other stuff. They eat things that we cannot digest. But here's something that I found interesting. We found 2.5 gallons of fairly fresh feces along Swift Creek in the 1974 expedition.
All in one.
There you go. So and it was in an area that was placed, and I've been in the military other than the Navy, and when you're doing guerrilla warfare, you really hide yourself. Whatever had left this had chosen a perfect spot that was off a trail. It was overlooking a creek. It was between 3 tall trees, and the person, when they squatted there, could see in either direction. Very intelligent. This was not an accidental dropping. This was on purpose. So we gathered it up, and we drove over to Washington State University, a couple hundred miles, to Dr. Grover Krantz and Dr. Tracy Blair. And I took it into Dr. Krantz. He was very interested in the forest giants. And I gave it, we deposited to it with him. And we waited a couple of weeks and called back, and I want to know what the analysis was. And he said, well, it was not bear at all. Impossible. It was definitely a hominid. Well, he wouldn't tell me a lot more. And because Grover knew that the only way you're going to convince science per se is you have to have not one body, you have to have 3. You have to kill 3 of them. And the reason is that you have to do comparative anatomy to show that the first one that you killed is not an anomaly. Well, I'm not killing even one of them. Why we have to kill things in order to prove they exist is beyond my ken to understand. I got Tracy. Yeah, well, I got Tracy Blair aside, and I said, what in the hell did you guys find? He said, we found an enzyme in there that had belonged to prehistoric man that is gone from what we have, because they can digest things that we have lost the ability to do so after thousands of years. Yeah, it's pre-Homo sapien and yet hominid. So this tells me that now let's talk about something else here just slightly. If you look at nature, there is only one creature walking the face of this earth that lives not with nature in general, but in spite of it. Guess who? Us. Us. Most of us, we have to cook food. Show me an animal that has to cook its food.
That's true.
Yeah. And show me an animal that has to have warmth created by a fire.
Us.
What animal lives in square, right angles dwellings? Only hominids.
Yep.
We don't live with nature. We live in spite of it.
Yeah.
Right. So in observing this, I'm wondering, where in the hell did we come from? Why are we here? Why is it that we're in an area, and this is going to sound really strange, but that's the story of my life. Everything here is trying to kill everything else. Think about it. Cut your hand and rub it in dirt, and watch what happens to your hand if you don't treat it, because you violated the skin, which is protecting you. Am I right? Right. So here comes little microbes in there, and you get what they call an infection. Don't treat it, and watch what happens.
You get septic.
That's right. You're going to die sooner or later. I mean, there's things like tetanus and everything else around trying to kill us. So we're a very arrogant species. We seem to need to dominate everything around us. We need to change everything around us to our benefit. There's not another creature that walks on the face of this earth that does that.
And I have to agree with this, that I don't think we're doing the best job. You know, I think we're doing a very bad job of taking care of this world, to be honest with you.
Yeah.
We're human beings are not living in harmony with the earth. That is so very true.
Yeah.
The only ones that I know of that even attempt to are American Indians.
Yeah, and you know, the interesting thing, I'm glad you brought that up, because I'm a curious, oh God, I'm a curious mix. Most of my family were Germanic, But my father was also Native American of the Chiricahua Apache people. And then I was born Scorpio. Oh, God, I don't have a chance. You know, give me a bow and arrow, a German Luger, hell, I'll start a war any place, you know.
It's like, where are you going to find a spirit and all that?
Yeah, you know. but you know, the Native American peoples that I've had, the true ones, not you know, there's an awful lot of them living on the reservations today that the true Native Americans call apples. And that the apple means that they have red skins, but they're white inside. Yes. And they're right. They're right. And as a matter of fact, just last night, I spent about 3 hours at my favorite bar. It's called the Grizzly Den, of all places, here in Whitefish, Montana. And I had 2 Native Americans with me. And they're real. They're not nonsense. They're not the apples at all. And that very subject came up. And we had a long conversation with it. And believing in reincarnation, which I do, I'm quite Buddhist, the subject came up, is why so many Native Americans on the reservations are suffering so badly, and yet other of them pay no attention to them. And they gave me an explanation that I had never, because I'm a slow learner, very slow. It takes me a long time to learn anything. But they said, consider that some of us, if you consider reincarnation, some of us are still true Native Americans. But the ones that are suffering the most, is it possible that they were the white souls that cheated us years ago, put us on tiny little reservations where we couldn't make a living, stole our food, did all this, and now they are condemned to live there?
That's an interesting thought.
Yes,
it is very interesting.
That is very, they knocked me over backwards with that one. And, otherwise, the ones that are really suffering there are the ones that actually created those places.
We have a question in the chat, and I wanted to ask you. I've got to find it up here. D-Law asked if you believe the forest people are susceptible to the same sort of illness as we are.
I assume so, except that I assume so. Okay. Because after all, they're hominidae. And this is one of the things I've heard so many times, which I know is absolute nonsense. So many people that go out and they salt trash barrels, you know, in these roadside places and in the state parks. They salt them with foods for the forest giants. Baloney. They don't do that. They are smart enough. For some reason, I have never found not one single time have I ever run across an incident in which they have stolen our type of food. And you know, the hamburgers that they leave out and all that stuff. They don't do that. Now, why don't they do it? I don't know. I don't know what their wisdom is. But they have an enzyme in their stomach that Grover Krantz came across, that they can digest things that you and I can't. We lost that ability a long time ago. And I've never known of a single incident of the forest giants ever taking what I would call white man's food.
Right.
They just don't do it. Now, thank God they don't.
I think, Robert, that probably eons ago we had that enzyme in our gut, and through natural selection, and from
I think you're right.
From converting our diet to cooked foods and things like that, we lost what we lost what we once had.
Right.
I believe that.
Well, this is one of the things that I'm not. This is going to sound commercial as hell, but this is some of the things that I discuss in my book, The Soul Snatchers. It's a nonfiction book. Okay, it's not fiction. It's nonfiction, and it traces some of my journey through both white people and Native Americans in my search for the truth. And the title confuses some people. Okay, the Soul Snatchers are people who try to tell you that you can't know something. They say you have to have faith. Well, let's define faith. Faith is accepting something, anything, without proof. And I say, nonsense. There isn't anything in the universe that we can't know, and that we shouldn't know, and we should know these things. And the guy that gave me that title was Calle Nino Cochise, who was the grandson of the famous Cochise, the son of Taza. He was a nephew of Goslaca, who we call Geronimo. He lived to be just 2 months short of his 111th birthday. And I lived with him in the last 10 years of his life.
Oh,
and it
my
was,
goodness.
Now,
pardon?
If Geronimo was a Chiricahua Apache, right?
Yes, he was. Yes, he was. He was of the Chiricahua clan through marriage.
Right.
And, yeah. And his real name was Goslaca. Do you know how he got the name Geronimo?
He jumped off of a building. No, I don't know.
Yeah, most people don't feel badly. There, when in the Nite, this is what we call Nite. It is a vow that you take. It means death to all outsiders. And the honorable way to die is to die in battle. Goslaca lost his family. Geronimo lost his wife and 3 children and his mother in Mexico while they were in this village trading. The men, they had left the family out in an arroyo, they call it, and rurales from a separate town rode in and killed them, murdered them.
Oh.
Goslaca, killed his wife, his mother, and his children. So the other tribal members that were there, the men, they scooted back across into the Estados Unidos, the United States. Well, he wanted revenge, and I don't blame him.
I imagine.
But the only way for an Apache to die and go to where he's supposed to go is he had to die in battle. So he worked like hell to get anyone to go back with him. And he finally got 2 other guys to go with him. But he kept presenting himself over and over and throughout his career, trying to die in battle. He wasn't brave. He was trying to, for Christ's sake, can't any of you guys shoot straight and kill me? And they couldn't. Really. And that's the reason he was so feared, because he had no fear. He wanted to die. How do I know this?
Yes.
Because Nino, my adopted father, was his nephew, and he remembered him. Oh, yes. Oh, yeah. I have been one of the most fortunate human beings walking the face of the earth with the people that I've stumbled into. So, in any case, that was the reason why he tried so hard. And nobody killed him. It really ticked him off, you know, because he wanted to be with his.
For a reason.
Yeah, he wanted to be with Alope, who was his wife's name, Alope, and his children, and nobody could shoot straight. So I forget how many scarred bullet holes he had in him. It was well over a dozen, but none of them killed him.
None of them ever hit a vital, did it?
No, they never did. And he ended up falling off of a wagon, drunk in the snow. And he was in his 80s, I believe it was, and he froze to death. That's how he finally died. Died of pneumonia, you know.
Yeah.
But anyway, it's, history. I wish to God people would really pay attention to it, because what was created what is. What is now is what we will become. And it's these stories. This is why I titled my book, The Soul Snatchers. Now, you invited me to talk about that, so I am. And but Soul Snatchers, it's my journey across America and even into Russia between 72 and about 1990, something like that, where I was with Native Americans, Bigfoot researchers, Tibetan lamas, legends of the Old West, you name it. I was so lucky. And what I discovered were there are these people who snatch at your soul in this sense. They don't want you to accept the truth. They want you to accept the myth and the legend and what they call faith. But let's define faith. Faith is accepting something without proof. And that's just not in my genes. If you can't prove it, get out of my face. You know what I mean? Yeah.
Robert, could you please talk a little bit about the field manual that you wrote?
Sure.
A lot of folks are interested in that.
Well, okay. Now, first, I want to give them a website so that they can understand and where to get these things. And
okay.
It's all they have to do is go to Pine Winds Press.
Okay.
One word. Pardon?
Now, Lauren has been putting that into the chat. Pine Winds Press.
Yeah,
There,
and it's www.pinewindspress.com. And if you click on that, the field manual and the Soul Snatchers book pops up, and I thank them very much. It's doing quite well, as a matter of fact. It's better than what we expected. I'm really flattered. But anyway, what I did, first I wrote the Soul Snatchers, and this is to alert people that to ignore the people, the naysayers. Here was my journey among the Native Americana and others. I'm talking about a Christian minister, the whole shooting match that went into the field with me and what we found. And the whole idea is to share with people that I'm not unique. I'm not at all unique. You and your listeners can do the same thing that I did. It's not that hard. Now, on the manual, what I did over 20-some years of research is I refined it down into basic steps, stages. This is how, if, now you have to have one capital IF, if the forest giants are within a 50-mile radius of where you live, your chances of having a legitimate encounter are way higher if you follow the directions, and I mean follow them to a T. And the reason is this. I teach your listeners how to find the areas, what to look for, how to secure your areas so that no one knows where you are. Because the worst thing you can do is tell even your best friend where in the hell you work. Why? Because news travels fast, and people have this strange, they think it's funny to lay traps for you, to create things, maybe to encourage you, whatever. No, you don't want that. You want a study area to be yours and only yours to you. And
well, we all know that loose lips sink ships, right?
Mm-hmm.
Absolutely. Oh, yeah. Nice. I remember that from World War II. Or did I remember that from World War I? Let me think about that. Anyway.
I think too.
I'm not quite that old. Anyway, but this takes you step by step, how to choose the area, how to find, to locate it, how to set up a camp in secret, to supply it in secret, and when you're there, what to do to make yourself approachable. If the forest giant's in the area, if you handle it right, the chances of an encounter are pretty doggone good. But I'm not telling you that it's fast. I'm not telling you that it's easy. That's not true. If you want a legitimate thing, it takes time, it takes patience, because they are so cautious of humans that they are very hard to get to know. But once you do, you can actually have a relationship with them, and they will, in time, present themselves. And the pocket manual, field manual, is also available at Pine Winds Press. And I'm going to do a little bragging here because it shocked me. I've not had a single bad review, not one.
You know, try it. Get the book and try it. I know a lot of people that have had great success after reading the field manual.
Yeah, thank you.
And it's not just how-to. It's kind of a retraining of your mind also when you go out
yes,
there.
Yes, yes, it is.
Your whole, help me here, Tennessee, it's like your whole body language has to be non-aggressive.
Yes, and the whole thing to gaining trust for the locals or whatever you choose to call them, it's mutual trust, and that trust takes a long time. It takes a lot of dedication. It takes a lot of patience, and you have to humble yourself.
Oh boy, you got that one right.
You have to be willing to dedicate a lot of time, a lot of energy, and like Robert points out in his field manual, if folks are willing to put into it all those things, then the results will come in time.
Yeah,
it's
they will.
kind of like it's a trade for respect. Your respect for their trust.
Yes.
Because if you don't respect them, they know it.
Oh yeah.
And if you don't care about them, they know it.
Yep.
And we're not talking about something that doesn't have intelligence. I believe they're extremely intelligent. You know, we know they outsmart us every turn. You know, every game camera, all the way down the line, they can outsmart you. But a lot of people will say, well, it's just wood smarts. Well, yes, they have wood smarts, but I think there's more to it than that because they know more about us than we know about them.
Yes, they do.
You take a human being and you take a human being and you put them out there in the woods and try to stay out there in the woods undetected for over 200 years.
Oh boy.
Well, we're talking longer than that. I believe they've been around.
Well, I'm just saying, since modern history, since the folks have been writing about them in this country, but they have to possess a very, very high level of intelligence just to be able to evade.
Yep. Yeah. And the interesting thing about the way they evade us is because they realize that we have a certain arrogance about us. So,
sure.
And we think, we've been taught that we're King Kong, and they've realized that.
Top of the food chain.
Yeah, exactly, yeah. And only if we have a gun. But because there was a time when humans were hunted, as you know. And as a matter of fact, even in Bengal now, a lot of people are being killed by tigers. They are the food for the tigers. The tigers are the king, not the people. But anyway, we just have this arrogant thing about us. But in the long run, maybe it's a good thing because everything that we have ever come into contact with, we've ended up destroying.
We've ruined
Yeah. So I'm not exactly overly proud sometimes. We've given ourselves the title, Homo sapien. And a lot of people don't realize what that means. And those words mean intelligent or smart man. I've met an awful lot of dummies in my life. I don't know about you guys. And if you're one of the wise men, you're right. But God, we have such egos, So, but anyway, I hope that your audience understands. I love to laugh. I love to joke. I just love it. Life isn't worth a damn if you don't learn to laugh, especially at yourself. But this is a very serious subject because we're looking at the roots. And if we stop and think about it, here is a hominid, has buttocks, a helix, which is a big toe, for those who don't know, an opposing thumb. They habitually walk erect.
Speech pattern.
They have an articulated speech program in which they can actually say vowels and consonants, and no ape can do this. None of them can do this.
No.
So this means that they are a hominid of sorts. They live completely with nature.
I heard you say it once, that they are what they are.
Yeah. And we have to disprove them because we have this incredible egotistical need to convince ourselves that we're King Kong. Everything is created for us. And that's just not true. You know, have you ever thought about this? You know, we're one of the few creatures on Earth that do not live with nature, but in spite of it.
Yes.
Yeah.
You're very wise, Robert. You are very wise.
Well, thank you, love. I thank you. It's just observation, you know. And one of the great compliments that I can have is when a wild animal trusts me. That's a huge, huge compliment to me. And like I said, I have a group of deer here. I live in Montana. I live just above Whitefish Lake. I've had as high as 22 deer in my yard. I have several now that will actually eat out of my hand. They know me. They trust me. And that's the greatest gift. It's like a little child. If a little child that you've never met before, you go into the house, and it's a toddler. And the little toddler toddles around, and then it looks at you and comes to you as a stranger. My God, what a compliment.
That is
a precious gift.
It is. Bingo. You've got the perfect terminology. Thank you. It's a precious gift. Absolutely right. And as a matter of fact, just today, I was a guest for an extended luncheon at a native Montanan's home, and they had their grandchild, a child over there, just under 2 years old. And the little kid toddles around, one here and there, finally came over to me and put his little hands up. And I thought, oh, my God, what a gift. What a gift. You know, it just tickled the bejeebers out of me. I love it. I love kids. It's adults I have problems with. Kids I love.
From Jordan Werner. He's a young man who is a junior documentarian, and he is really on his way. His question is, Robert Morgan planning to come to Don Keating's Ohio Bigfoot Conference this May? Are you planning to be there?
No.
Robert? No? Okay.
No.
Okay.
No. I know Mr. Keating quite well. No, thank you.
Okay. Okay.
Need I say more?
No.
Next question.
Yeah. And if you ask me after the break why, I'll tell you, because I don't mind telling the truth.
Okay.
I'm sure you don't.
Way. Yeah.
It's entirely up to you. Okay, take your break and we'll be back. But am I going?
No, you stay around.
You still got
the best is yet to come.
But we just thought, well, we would just really pass it up for our new guest, and I'm glad you
we're
enjoyed
getting
it.
down and we're getting down and boogieing here. I like that. You know, I'm old and I'm ugly, but I ain't dead.
Nope. I don't think you're ugly either.
All my ex-mother-in-laws. Yeah. I'm sorry, folks. I just love to laugh.
If I may take a second here, I'd like to remind everyone of a lot of Robert's accomplishments throughout the years. I'm going to start back, since he's already spoken about his first Bigfoot sighting in Mason County, Washington in 57 or 56. I'm going to start in the early 70s. Of course, there was Bigfoot, Man or Beast. That was in 72. And then Monsters, Mysteries or Myths, came along in 74. And in 76, The Mysterious Monsters came out. And that had a whole host of researchers from the Bigfoot community. That was directed by Robert Gwinnett, Dr. Jeffrey Bourne, Dr. Lawrence Bradley, Jeff Brucey, Peter Byrne, Tim Dinsdale, John Green, Peter Burke, Peter Herkos, Grover Krantz, Ed McLarney, of course, Robert Morgan, Robert Patterson, Robert Rhines, Eric Shipton, William Stenberg, Sidney Walter, and Jerry Lou Welchel. And it was narrated by Peter Graves.
Yes, it was.
And then in 76, there was In Search of Bigfoot. And in 78, he came out, he directed the movie Bloodstalkers.
Mm-hmm.
And, we were looking at that. We were going, ooh.
Yeah. I got some news on that. As soon as you're finished, you're going to laugh. I got some news on that. I'll let you finish before I tell you.
I'm nearly finished. And then, of course, bringing you up to date, Soul Snatchers, and Robert has had so many accolades. You know, we could go on and on and on, but I'm just sort of hitting the high points. He can probably fill us in on a whole lot more, I'm sure.
Oh, yeah. I don't waste heartbeats, you know. Let's use them, folks. And get out and get down and get involved and do things. Don't just think about it. Do it. And it's been a fun life. And it's going to get, as they say, funner pretty soon. because we've formed a new film production company called the Talisman Media Group. And I'm dealing with some pretty high-profile people. Sergio Giorgione was the man that was primarily responsible for a film you guys probably never heard of, Dances with Wolves.
Oh, boy.
Yeah.
Oh, wow.
And,
I love that movie.
Sergio and I have been friends for, oh, God, I can't even tell you how long. And I've also brought on board in a new film production company that I've just started up there very recently. And we're going to be doing feature films. And of all things, last year, this is so weird. Can I tell you the story of Bloodstalkers? Would you mind?
Please do. Please do.
Go ahead. Please
do.
Well,
I was involved in a couple of films I had written, and I had did a couple of acts. In fact, my very first stunt on a feature motion picture was William Shatner knocked me on my butt. You know, we were doing a film with Ruth Roman and all these people, and Harold Oddjob Sakata. Remember the guy Oddjob in Goldfinger that tried to kill James Bond with his hat?
Yeah.
Yeah. He had a steel hat. Yeah. Well, that was Harold Sakata, and he was a Japanese American out of Hawaii. He was a professional wrestler, and he was on the film that we made called Impulse. And Ruth Roman, who only old timers will remember, but God, she was a big star once upon a time. And we had Jennifer Bishop, etc. And I'm watching the director, because I'd written several screenplays that he did. He bought 4 of my screenplays. In fact, believe it or not, the concept for the In Search Of series that was so big with Leonard Nimoy was mine.
Oh, yeah.
I had written that for me, because this guy, Bill Graffet, said, Robert, I just read about, he invited me to lunch. He was president of Ivan Tor Studios at the time. And he invites me to lunch. Hell, I'd never been around movies before. I don't even know what this guy's talking about. And he said, well, Robert, we've been following your career, blah, 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 blah. And we'd like to know, what else are you going to do? I said, are you kidding me? You know, I want to know everything. I'm a nosy little sucker. And I want to be in search of everything. I want to know about the Bermuda Triangle. I want to know blah, 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 blah. He said, would you mind putting that into writing? Huh? Sure. I'm stupid, right? I wrote it all out, In Search of the World's Mysteries. Well, Mr. Graffet, William Graffet, don't ever show anything to him that you don't want to lose. And he flew to L.A., came back, and he said, well, they really weren't interested, so let's... Baloney. He sold it to the guy that produced In Search Of, ... That was originally my concept. I got zip for that. Oh, yeah. Well, that's the dues you pay to get into the film business, because it really is a cutthroat industry. But
so
that's how In Search Of...
stole your concept.
Exactly.
Wow.
But anyway, and not knowing this, Bill bought 4 of my screenplays. He produced one. I don't even remember what the hell he calls it, but he did it. And I can't think of the name of the darn thing. But anyway, I got so mad when I saw the rushes, which is the first thing, that I forced him to take my name off of it, and I picked up a phone book in his lawyer's office, spun it open, put my finger on a name, and I said, "There's my nom de plume, because I'm not putting my name on that piece of crap." And which he did. He did. But anyway, Bill Shatner and we were doing this film, Impulse, and at this one point we were supposed to. He was supposed to hang Harold Cicada, in a car wash. Now, how in the hell you hang somebody in the car wash? I don't know, but the director figured it out. So he's got this guy, and he's hanging there, and he's supposed to be on a harness. Now, I'm one of the prop guys. I'm a property master, and I'm watching this, and he's turning around, and his tongue is sticking out way too far. And I realized it about the same time Shatner realized it. The harness he was dying. He was hanging in front of the camera, and the director got ticked off because I jumped in, and Bill grabbed Cicada's legs and lifted up. I went up that damn thing like a monkey and cut the guy down. And as you and I are speaking now, on my desk is the rope with the blood on it, and all is right here on my desk. I'm going to frame it around Harold's picture.
Oh, my gosh.
Yeah, Cicada and I became extremely close. So did Bill. Bill Shatner, people look at him and they see him on this new television, he's a comedian and all that. Bill is a truly a nice guy. He really, truly is. He had come off of Star Trek. He didn't play that star crap at all with us. And we ended up being good friends because he and I shared the experience of saving Cicada's life. Well, Cicada ended up becoming a very, very close friend of mine. Very close. And we remained close for many years. And then he of course, he liked to drink a lot. I don't know where in the hell he gets this. But he lived in Hawaii, right? I'm living in the United States. This crazy bastard called me up in the middle of the night. "Hey, brother, let's go down to Waikiki." Hey, you idiot, you're about 5 hours from me. I'm trying to sleep here, And I have a photograph of Cicada with my daughter, my little daughter, curled up in his lap. Here's this big Japanese wrestler, looks like a killer, and he's got my kid. He's got my kid curled up beside him, sound asleep. He's a really, really, really nice man.
He's a marshmallow.
Yeah.
Well, Robert, we have a caller, and I'm going to warn you, this guy's from Texas. He loves to carry a gun, Texas 7mm. So get ready. I told him I made him promise he would behave, and I hope he does.
That's impossible for a Texan. It's in the genes. Okay. Cut him loose. I'll take him on.
Okay, come on, Tex. How you doing?
He done got under my Texas blood now. we tote guns wherever we go around here. You ever face down a pack of wild dogs with nothing but your hand? Me neither. I had a 9mm in mine. That's why I'm here.
No. Wait a minute. You're speaking Texanese. Would you translate that?
Huh?
I love this guy already. Okay, what's your question, sir?
You ever face down a pack of wild dogs with nothing in your hand?
Well, I'll tell you what. Have you ever met my ex-mother-in-laws?
No, but I'm an undertaker by trade.
There's your answer.
I bury my problems.
Okay, but no, I have not. Dogs usually like me, and I can prove that on a Saturday night at the local bar. Believe me. What? No, I have not.
Well, around here we have a wild hog problem too.
Oh, hog! I thought you said dog.
Yes, dogs and hogs. Bow wow and oink oink,
Oh, okay, I got you. Now I got you. Now I've seen those in the Everglades, and they have no sense of humor whatsoever.
None.
Yeah. They put me in my Jeep in about 2 seconds.
Yeah, we killed 275-pounder about 2 weeks ago out to Deer Lakes. He didn't have no humor either.
What did you use?
44 Magnum between the eyes.
Oh, my Lord. That's not fair. You're supposed to take a 22. Give them a chance, for God's sake.
I'll let you take the 22. I'll take the 44. I'll shoot him off of you.
You're probably right, Al. What's your question other than that?
Well, I was just going to ask you, here in Texas, we don't believe in going around unarmed, you know.
Oh, I do.
Texas. And Laurie gives me a hard time because here in Texas, when we see a marker out in the woods, I have this real bad habit of going over there and marking the territory and then declaring in a very loud voice to any and all comers that I am the alpha male. If there's any discussion about that, step out in the open and we will discuss it.
Yeah, Robert, this is what I have to deal with. I'm working with this man, and I'm just not getting anywhere. See what you can do with it.
Okay. All right. Here's the test of an alpha male. Here's the test. Yeah, you ready for it? All right. Leave your gun at home. Go out. Now, wait a second. I'm not finished. Hold it. Now, go back to that same spot. Put your open hands out and invite them in for a chat. Now, that is an alpha male because you don't have a weapon to back you up. It's only you.
Well,
give it a shot.
I have
an alpha male. Otherwise, it's only that thing on your hip that's alpha, not you.
Well, you know, God made man, but Sam Colt made us all equal, you know, depending on how fast you and how accurate you is. But you go out in the woods around here unarmed, you're liable to not come back. Like I said, hogs and dogs and assorted other things. But my first vocal encounter with one is I had been to the local Tex-Mex restaurant and imbibed myself rather largely and stopped up on top of a hill, and there was a tree break up there that I just thought it was a little bent over tree. Well, you know, natural urges, you know, you got to number one and number two. And the wind was blowing down in the creek bottom, and I heard this thing holler at me. Of course, me being the shy, bashful fellow that I am, I hollered back.
Yeah,
and I told him that was a poor rendition of a coyote call. Then the owl hooted at me, and I owl hooted back at him, and Laurie can tell you about my owl call.
Oh, he's got the most awesome.
Yeah.
And then he really got mad and pushed the tree over. And I told him to step on out here like a white man, and we discussed this, and he hollered again, pushed another tree over, and I decided, well, it might ought to be time. It's getting kind of late. I think I'm going to go to the house.
I don't think he liked you, Tex.
You're a smart man.
No.
but now let me tell you the true test of manhood here.
All right.
And that is if you face the woods, put your weapon on the ground, walk forward with your
No, wait, whoa. Put my gun on the ground.
Yeah.
Still have my weapon in hand or not?
No. You keep that in your pants. Anyway, you step forward unarmed, okay, and you approach them, and you say, I am unarmed, here I am, would you like to talk? Now, that is a true test of a courageous man, not somebody with a gun on their hip. Because then all it is, you know, is it's like a, what would you call it, a crutch. You know, forget the weapon. You don't need it.
Well, hold on. When we were out there hog hunting last year, I shot a hog, and I'm blood trailing this thing down to the creek.
Oh, yeah.
30 steps from the edge of the creek, and it's very thick woods, and I've got good blood, and I know this hog is down there. Right before dark, this thing hollers at me, like, hey, I got your pig. Well, in true redneck fashion, I holler, oh, no, you don't. I'm coming to get it. And then he had 4 of his buddies holler all around me. And I hollered back that this ain't fair. 4 Harrys, 1 redneck is not fair. And it got interesting.
Give them the pig.
But, you'll understand I was hungry, and Laurie can testify to my hunger.
Well, you cut off one leg and run like hell.
That's thieving.
There you go. Okay, I hope I answered your question.
Well, I'm gonna try that, but you know one thing, I'm gonna make damn sure I know where that gun is. So if I have to run back and pick that sucker up.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, you want to mark your spot. But I don't think honest to God, I've never known of a single human being who was ever legitimately attacked by force, with the exception of one man, and that was in Ape Canyon, as they call it, Ape Canyon in Washington, when Fred Beck shot an unarmed, a young individual in the back, the cowardly little SOB. It fell into the canyon, and that night the family came and they drove those so-called miners out. They stomped on the...
What happened to that feller up in Oregon that had his 30-30 wrapped around a tree, and his dead body was underneath it?
Good idea. Well,
you heard about that?
No,
have you heard about it? I was asking you. Have you heard about it?
No, I answered that. I said no.
Okay.
I have not heard of it. But you shoot my kid, I got to guarantee you, I'm going to take that weapon if I can get it, and it's going to go where the sun doesn't shine.
Well, I understand that. You got to protect your family.
But you see, the forest giants, they never attack, but they will defend themselves, and I don't see a damn thing wrong with that.
Yeah.
Yeah. But I've never known them to ever attack. Now, they'll try to intimidate you by throwing rocks.
You ever have one walk you out of the woods at night?
Yes.
Well, we've had some intimate discussions with them when they do that with us.
Yeah.
You know, you can get real interesting discussions going rather one-sided, though.
And
you know,
I have positive encounters, and he has negative encounters, and I can tell you why. Because it's attitude. It's attitude.
I go in there. I went in there, peaceful intent. I went to my deer stand. I sat there till dark, and I got up and I went to walking out, and he's walking me out of the woods. He won't even say hi.
You're in his territory. You are in his home.
Whoa. Hold it. They ain't been out there but the past 3 years. When the hogs moved in, this bunch came in.
Now, wait. See, let me see if I get this on clear. You were at your deer stand, right?
Yep.
You had you had a weapon with you.
Of course.
Well,
you don't deer hunt. You don't deer hunt with nothing.
So you're taking food from their mouth.
Whoa. Time out. Time out. Hold up.
Yeah, I got you.
I have a nice 1.5 acres of oat patch here. I got 2 corn feeders throwing down there. He can have all the corn and oats he wants. Deer's mine. I pay $1,000 a year for this privilege.
Okay, I got you.
Okay. He can have all the hogs he wants, as long as it ain't the one I shot. That's my bacon. That's my bacon.
All right. Well, I guess I can understand that one. I'm not going to argue with you on that. Good man.
Well, I mean,
but don't shoot them.
Ted,
do what?
Do you have any more questions? Because we've got some questions.
No, I'll go ahead and leave. Was I nice, Laurie? Was I nice? Was I nice?
Yes. Well, yes.
For me. Sir, it's nice to talk to you.
No, I think you're absolutely wonderful, pal. I'd love to go out in the woods with you. I love folks like you because you don't baloney. It's not nonsense with you. It's real. Thank God for folks like you.
Thank you, sir. You take care.
My pleasure. Thank you.
All right. Bye.
Good night. Okay, we do have a question from the chat, Robert. They want to know if you've ever had an aggressive encounter.
Well, it's going to what you have to define that word aggression. I've had them warn me that I'm in the wrong area. They have a tendency. They're very good with rocks because that's how they will kill. They kill their meat with rocks. And I'll give you an example. Along the Columbia River Gorge, about 15 miles east of the Dalles, I found a field that had 7 carcasses, old ones. I mean, they're down to bones. There were 2 deer, the rest were cattle. They had been killed they had something in common. They had their ribs cracked on one side, which could only have been done by a missile, which would have been a rock, okay? They do eat meat, okay? No problem with that. And it was near an area where they crossed over the Columbia River. How do I know? Because I found hair on 2 sides of the interstate highway on barbed wire fences. Then I found on the other side, a good 3 miles downstream of the Columbia River, I found the same hair, which indicated that they had gone into the river and been carried down by the current as they had swam across. Okay. So, yes, they do kill with rocks. I have no problem. I have had them wing rocks past me, especially in Ohio. And I found that by really studying it, what I had done is accidentally, I had accidentally discovered their primary sleeping areas when they passed through, because they are semi-nomadic. They're on the move. And I had gone into an area that I should not have, and they were warning me. And if they wanted to hit me, I wouldn't be here today. But they're saying, hey,
they had no intent of hitting you.
Yeah, they say, they said, hey, Baldy, go any place you want, but get the hell out of here. Oh, okay.
We're going to stable this one real close to your ear.
Yeah. Well, it was close enough that I felt the concussion of the rock going past, and I know that they hunt and kill with. They hunt and kill with rocks. Had they wanted to hurt me, it would have been. It would have been all over. But they don't. They don't. They really don't. I ended up, believe it or not, trading with them. It took me 2.5, almost 3 years to gain their confidence. But we actually traded. And I'm not going to say what it was, because then people will perhaps abuse the thing. And I'm not being a smart aleck, because I know your audience is probably very, very much like ourselves. Nevertheless, I was successful, and it was... and you had mentioned someone had called in and asked me if I was going down to Mr. Keating's thing. Let me put it this way. I worked 3 years to establish this relationship with this group. And Mr. Keating, I didn't know that he owned the entire state of Ohio. I didn't know that. I apologize. I didn't check into the deeds. But when he discovered I was working close to where he was, he and his friends came out. And it just so happened that my daughter from Seattle, she was living in Seattle, she'd come down, and I wanted to show her some sights in Ohio. I took her down to a place called the Old Stone House. And it was in Salt Fork National or State Park. So I took her down there. When we came back, Mr. Keating and his group had found my rather distinctive blue Volvo station wagon in Ohio with Montana license plates. Now, that's pretty hard to hide, So they were screaming and yelling and dancing around my car, assuming that I was there for the Forest Giants and assuming that they were screwing up what I was doing. I've not spoken to the man since. I want nothing to do with him. You don't do that.
No, you don't.
No. Not, and it's sheer jealousy, and it's all I was doing was showing my kid, but he felt that I was in his. I didn't know he owned the damn state park, but they were screaming and dancing around and yelling, thinking that they were screwing up. Well, all I was doing was there on a holiday with my kid. But I have not spoken to the man since, and I want nothing more to do with him. Period.
We have some questions in the chat, Robert, if you don't mind. Let me see here. How many sightings have you had?
Oh God, I don't know. It's been quite a few.
Okay.
It's I don't know. It's I never sat down to think about them, and a lot of the sightings that I've had have been glimpses. But I had set up what I would call a trading situation in which they would leave me gifts, tangible gifts.
What kind of gifts did they leave you? I'm curious, because I believe that I've been in a trading situation too.
Okay, I'll give you one example, okay? Because I don't want, because here's what I'm afraid of, is people will start salting areas, and you don't want that.
Yes.
But this happened one time. There was a Army Ranger that I was working with. And one weekend he came down to this particular site, but he brought his 11-year-old or 12-year-old son with him. Now that upset me because I was trying to do something, and here's the reason why it upset me. I do not want to come in contact with something like a forest giant with a child who is impressionable, who might become frightened. I don't want that.
Yes.
Okay. So I like to sneak up on it a little bit and handle this directly. So I was not too happy. But at the same time, as a kid, I'd been ignored by my family horribly ignored as a kid.
I can't imagine that.
Oh, no. I was told at the table, shut your mouth and eat, and I had a hell of a time figuring that one out. But, yeah, I wait till everybody's looking away and I'd sneak a bite, you know. How the hell do you shut your mouth and eat? But I was not, it was because my dad wasn't all white. He was white and Indian, and it was not accepted in the Germanic family. And therefore I was, I was called names. Anyway, it's okay. It's their loss. So anyway, where the hell was it? I went down, and this little boy, his father was annoyed because he expected to do work with me, and he was saddled with this poor little kid. Well, I know what the kid felt like. I was on one or two. So he found things. He'd never been in the woods before. He found something. He's jumping up and down. Dad, look at this. What is this? What is this? And his dad says, leave me alone. I'm working. Okay. So I go over. What he had found was the carcass of a wild turkey. He'd never seen a wild turkey feathers. The kid didn't know what the hell. So I've been there, done that. So I kneel down. What the hell? The kid's more important than what I'm doing. I can do that next week. So I sit down and I'm talking to the kid and I'm explaining this and this and this, and he plucks some feathers out. Oh, my mom won't let me teach it. Take this. These are dirty. I said, oh crap. Take the thing. Just don't suck off the end. You'll be all right. So I mean, how dare he get his hands dirty? So I give him a bunch of. So okay. So we talk and we showed interest in this, right? So I took up and I set up what I called a trade site. I put up 7 items, and I won't tell you what they are because I don't want to spoil the game for other people. I put up 7 items. I came back the next week. All 7 items were gone. Under them were 7 turkey feathers.
Wow, so they were watching.
And they were stuck in the ground a good inch to inch and a half deep. They could not have fallen. There's no way a falling feather is going to stick into the ground over an inch. It's impossible. Now, of course, I'm a slow learner, very slow. But I figured it out.
You weren't convinced yet, right?
I said, wait a second. They must have been watching us. They saw what we gather things. They think that turkey feathers are important to us for some reason. Mm-hmm. So they didn't take what I gave them. They traded item for item, value for value. They thought turkey feathers were important. And they left the turkey feathers sticking in the ground. And I have a witness to this, a guy by the name of Steve Jones, still in Ohio. He was with me, and we stared at each other for about 10 minutes with our mouths open because the logic behind it was so outrageous. This is intelligence, and on top of that is a thing called fairness. They gave tit
it's
for tat.
Only just recently been addressed. A lot of people wouldn't discuss it. It was just unheard of.
That's right.
Right.
And this was done a long time ago that this happened. Mm-hmm. But I learned something about them at that instant, that they recognized value. They had been watching us. They had been watching that kid. And they saw me hunkering down beside him as if it was something of importance. And, of course, in the general thought of things, it's not important at all. But it was important to that kid. And that's how the forest giant mind works. And this tells me that they're much higher intelligent than most people give them credit for. So just exchanging that story with you. This actually happened.
That's wonderful, because I was getting feathers.
I beg your pardon?
Feathers. Yes.
You were what? I'm sorry?
I was getting feathers as gifts, just all different kinds. Eagle feathers, turkey feathers, owl, blue heron, every day in the same place.
Mm-hmm.
And I had a whole collection, and I'd always heard that it was an American Indian thing to display your gifts, so I displayed them on my front porch, and someone came up and said, well, you need to get those eagle feathers in the house because game warden sees them, he'll find you. And I said, for a feather? And they go, yes, ma'am. Wow.
Well,
Robert, we have a couple more questions if you're ready for them.
Sure.
Yes.
Okay. We have a question from Old Crow, and she says, let me find. Have you ever seen a dog-faced one? And if you have, can you please tell us about those?
No, only in the mother-in-law.
Only in the
Golly, your mother-in-law must have been with us.
Which one?
We also have a question from.
No, I have not seen. I have not seen any such thing. The only ones that I have seen eyeball to eyeball were very similar to Roger Patterson's film. Very similar. They are, but they have. They do not have fangs. They have teeth like us. It's not fangs. Because I caught one grimacing. At one, I guess it was a grimace. Maybe it was laughing at one of my jokes. I don't know. But and they are more. I would call them humanoid, as opposed to Homo sapien. They're hominids for sure, but they're very close to us. They do have an articulated speech program. They can pronounce vowels and consonants. Have any of you ever heard the Bigfoot recordings by Ron Moorhead?
Yes.
Okay. Did you hear the English pronunciation in the middle of them?
Okay. I probably have heard these, but I'm not. I've heard a lot of different ones, so I'm trying to remember.
I'm going to urge people to get a hold of Ron Moorhead's. It's called the Bigfoot Recordings. Now, listen to this. This was done in the 1970s. He and Al Beery had made these recordings in Northern California. They had sent them off to some university who examined them and said, pardon?
Was it a linguist that they sent them to? Or?
Yes.
Okay.
And they came back, they said, well, we hear vowels and consonants, blah, 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 blah. So anyway, I had heard them first in the the mid-1970s, but I had ignored them out of my ignorance. Now, ignorance means, it doesn't mean stupid. People say, yeah, you're ignorant. No. Ignorant means not knowing. They were not sounds that I had ever heard before. I would urge all of your visitors, or your listeners, get a copy of Ron Moorhead's called the Bigfoot Recordings. But you better listen damned carefully. Here's what happened. I got him a second time, and this time I had a recording engineer out of Los Angeles that had done, oh, God, this guy was top drawer. I'd met him in Moscow in Russia, invited him to my home, blah, 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 blah. We set up a recording studio and all these things in my basement. And his name was Scott Church. And he's done everything from Barbra Streisand to Rod Stewart, blah, blah, blah. Okay, good. He's got a hell of an ear. So we're sitting down there, and I get these recordings from Ron Moorhead, and I thought, crap. I put them on, and they're playing, and he and I are sitting there talking. All of a sudden, his eyebrows go up, and so do mine. Hold it, back that up. And we hear all this gobbledygook, all this stuff. And all of a sudden we hear, you're not welcome.
Oh,
embedded.
My gosh.
Oh, yes. So we played that sucker back, and it's as clear as a damned bell. You're not welcome. So, me being as shy as I am, I called Ron Moorhead. I said, hey, Ronnie, did you put this on? He said, what the hell are you talking about? So I told him, and I gave him the marker, where to find it. He said, Morgan, he said, I made those recordings. Those have been examined at every university, blah, blah. He said, no, what the hell are you talking about? I said, just listen to it. He called me back about an hour later. He said, oh, my God. How could we have missed that after all these years? It was very simple. You weren't listening for it. So we went on Art Bell show, he and I and Scott Church together. And we played this. This is about, I guess 10 years ago. And it's clear as air. You hear all this gobbledygook, wee, blah, 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 blah. And then you hear, you're not welcome. It's there. Oh. This indicates two things that are significant. Number one, they have an articulated speech program which indicates they have an Homo sapien tongue, not Pangidae, which is apes. They can say vowels and consonants, number one. Number two is they applied, you are not welcome, get the hell out of here. So they knew what they were saying, which indicates, now you can, any one of your listeners, get a hold of the Bigfoot recordings from Ron Moorhead, the very first ones, and listen carefully, and you will hear the Bigfoot in the middle of all these screams and yells and the whistles and the calls, boo, 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 because they imitate the animals around them to communicate. But they have the ability to use vowels and consonants, and only Homo sapien in the face of this earth can do that, except for a parrot. So there you go.
I have a question for you.
Sure. Wait just a second. Mike Watch One had a comment, but I missed it. Did you happen to catch it?
I've got it. Yeah.
Okay, great. Let's hear it.
Watch One says, Mr. Morgan, I've listened to you many times, way back when you were on Artist First Radio. I wish that you would cover a little about their talking and speech, as this is one subject that fascinates me.
About their talking and their speech?
Yes.
Yeah, okay. Well, I think I just did.
Yes, I think you did too.
Yeah, and I think I answered their question.
Yes.
Yeah. These people, and I call them people. I don't call them animals. I don't call them monsters and all this crap. These are people. They're not Pangidae, which is the ape. They are of the hominids. And the difference between us, the greatest difference between us, is they live in complete harmony with nature. And if you look at us coldly and honestly, we're one of the few creatures that walk the face of this earth who live in spite of nature. We have to prove that we are superior, that we can control X, Y, Z. And, man.
But if you take our electricity away, it won't be long before we're right back to nature.
Yeah,
you know?
yeah. And
it would take an awful lot for us to end up trying to live like they do.
Well, you know, another thing is Native Americana. Now, I'm going to insult a bunch of Indians out here, and I can't help it because truth is truth. And everybody looks back and says, oh, the Native Americans, they lived with nature, they were in perfect harmony. Yes, this is absolutely true, with the exception of one thing. Man, they fought among each other like you wouldn't believe. They had slavery, because they would go to other tribes. Let's take Sacagawea. We call her Sacagawea. Sacagawea, who led the Lewis and Clark. She was a slave. She had been captured as a child, carried clear out on the bloody plains, because she was part of the Nez Perce. That's French for Nez Pierce, as we call it. And Pierce knows. Anyway, she'd been carried out there as a slave. She was sold to this French trapper, and she became the guide, you know. But let's stop the nonsense. The Native Americans were not all that what would you call it? In tune. They were in tune for their livelihood, but my God, they fought constantly, one over the other, over hunting grounds and every other dadgum thing. They had slavery. They had all these things. Let's take the blinders off. Let's be truthful with what we are. And we're not exactly what I would call an admirable species, to be honest with you.
We do have a call, and we're going to go ahead and take the call. Is that
okay.
all right with everyone? Okay.
Anything.
I know,
you folks are wonderful.
We've got Richard, your friend Richard, online. He's been online for a while and everything, and I'm going to get to him. But let me get to this man first.
Sure, I'm sorry.
Or woman. I'm not sure who it is.
Okay.
614, you're on the air. Well, I'm trying to unmute him here.
I've got to tell you, it's an honor to talk to you. I've been listening to you for a long time. My question for you would be, have you put much thought into the way these people see? In other words, looking at the way other animals' eyes work, looking at what's been said from eyewitnesses that have claimed to have seen these people, it's my opinion, and it's definitely not a qualified opinion at that, but it's my opinion, I really wonder if they see the world similar to what the way a dog would see the world. If these creatures, if these people do have tapetum in their eyes the way dogs do to help with night vision, then I wouldn't be surprised if they do have a view of the world that would be pretty closely matched to dogs. What's your take on that?
Transferring information like that from a dog's eye, or for that matter, any other animal's eyes, to them, I would say no. And here's the reason why. When I ended up, everybody talks about going on, and I'm sure you've heard, we went on an expedition last weekend, for 2 days. Okay.
I've done that.
And to me, I went in the woods, in the mountains once in, I think it was the latter part of March. I came out in Thanksgiving. That is a bloody expedition. Where in the hell they get this term expedition for a weekend or even a week? That's ridiculous. But anyway, getting back, I just sit back and scratch my head like, oh, God, they got in the dictionary.
Short outing, maybe.
Yeah. Well, it's a weekend camping trip, for Christ's sake. But anyway, I go on an expedition, man.
Never say I went on an expedition again. Never.
But because, an expedition is an expedition. It's true. It's gone. You're gone, man. You're gone there for weeks and months. Well, anyway, I tackled this, and I'll tell you what. I discovered that my night vision, in several months of being out, completely changed. My night vision became outrageous because I was there. My eyes adjusted to the circumstance. And it's amazing what you can learn to see once your eyes, they're like a tool. And they say, okay, boss, is that what you want me to? Okay, I'll do that. And you can train your eyes to see things at night. And here's the big secret to night vision. If you want to see something, don't look directly at it, but maybe 2 degrees up, down, side, left or right, but not directly at it. And what will happen is...
Isn't that the way they look at things, too, though, I've noticed? And look directly at things.
Yeah.
I don't think they look directly at things either.
Yeah. They have good peripheral vision, and they've learned to use the rods in their eyeballs to see. So I don't see them as seeing as a dog would see. No, not at all. And I've never seen, even though I've been in the woods with them, with a flashlight, like an idiot, I was out there in the early times, I've never seen a reflection from their eyes at all.
If that's the case, they wouldn't have a tapetum. That's good to know.
Bingo. That's right. So I see them more as seeing as we see, as we would learn to see if we spent months out. and it was amazing to me. And I didn't expect it. I didn't anticipate it. But by God, my whole night vision changed after months of being out there. It really did. So I hope that answers your question, my friend.
Yes, it did.
Pardon?
Thank you.
Oh, more than welcome, sir. That's what it's all about. You know, the day we all stop sharing, we're in deep poo-poo. So I'm not touting it, but I am offering that if you look at Pine Winds Press, and you get a couple of my books, to hell with the money. I don't care about the money. But I'm trying to share what I have learned with people who care. And that's what Pine Winds Press is all about. And I'm very proud to be with them, to be honest with you. I've got a couple of more books that are going to be coming out, have nothing to do with the forest giants, nothing whatsoever. But they're with much larger. But Pine Winds, they're a bunch of folks that really care. And I'm so fortunate to be with them. Where are we on time? By the way, you folks are delightful to be with. I must tell you that.
We have about 9 minutes left, Robert.
We do have another call, and I've had him on hold for a while. It's Richard.
Oh, okay.
And I believe it's Richard. I'm not sure, but Richard, is that you?
Yeah, it's me. I was just going to tell y'all, I've done a lot more research on Robert than y'all have, and it was the War of 1812 where he coined that phrase, loose lips sink ships.
No, that's not good.
You know how those Navy guys are. You know, they go back, they get on a ship, and they get stuck there for years and things. You know.
You know, this guy, he has to be one of those, what we call stump jumpers, or jarheads, or Marines. He has to be one of the two. I don't know what the hell it is.
Well, I'm going to tell you,
what's your question?
I actually just called to listen because I lost sound for some reason.
Okay.
And I don't mind giving you a hard time.
Yeah, but you can give him a hard time anytime.
Well, I try not to, usually. It doesn't always work like that. It's usually the other way around. I'm usually getting a hard time from him.
So what's your question there, Peanut?
No question, pal. I was just actually listening. I lost sound for some reason.
Question?
That's amazing.
Well,
he's never listened to me before.
Well, you know, usually any questions I've got, we can wait. There are other people that have questions.
I do have a question. Do you think they can see infrared?
Well, I'm going to tell you, Laurie, you know, Chad Brooks and I went out with, experimented with infrared for quite a while. And, you know, Chad and I were out for about 2 years almost every night. And no
wonder your wife divorced you.
No, that was a long time before that. But and I'm kind of like you with her about your mother-in-laws. With me, it was thank God Satan has left.
Yeah. They must have been related.
I think so. We won't get into their last names, but anyway. Actually, Chad and I got out in the woods almost every night with night vision equipment, and we actually used real infrared, not the little. Well, we experimented with the little red LED light that people call infrared, and there's a major difference in it. And we found that when we were sitting there looking just directly through our starlight, nothing actually paid any attention to us. The minute the little red LED was turned on, everything around us looked at us. We'd turn the red LED off, and we'd hit them with the infrared, and they would still turn and look at us. So whether they see the infrared or not, I don't know. But we never had, and you know where we were at, Laurie. You know, it was like, I don't know how to put it. It was like Forest Giant Central up there. For a long time, and it's starting. I think it's starting to pick up again since the storms. But
and I wanted to, if you don't mind if I interrupt for a minute, I do want to. We're getting down to the wire, and I wanted to thank Robert for coming on. I was so honored to have you come on. You just don't know. I was just dancing when I found out you were coming on. I have really enjoyed these 2 hours. They have just flown by. for me. And so we are getting down to the goodbyes, and we want to thank everyone for coming in. And Tennessee, you have anything to say?
No, I just want to add that I'm so thankful that Robert decided to be our guest tonight, and it's been a real honor and a pleasure.
But trust me, pal, you and your lady there, the honor is from me. Thank you for inviting me. I'm so happy to be able to converse with you both. I'm glad that folks like you are involved. I'm like the old man of the forest here, or some damn thing like that. But yeah, everybody says, "Well, yeah, you've been around a long time." I say, "Oh, stop reminding me of that." I'm almost as old as Richard Van Dyke, but I'm not quite. Anyway.
We'll get into that, pal.
Yeah,
and everyone, Robert, in the chat room, they all are saying thank you so much for being a guest too. They really want to show their appreciation.
For me, that I thank them very much for giving a damn. And anytime you folks need me, give me a call. I'll be more than happy to converse with you at any time, anywhere, any place.
Thank you. Will you come back? And
what did I just say? Did I speak English? What's the matter with you, girl?
Anytime.
We were talking about on a personal level, like around a campfire.
oh, that would be cool. No, I love that. I'd love that. Yeah.
Laurie, I have been trying to get him in the woods of East Texas for 6 or 7 years. He hadn't left.
Yeah, but I'm not going anywhere overnight alone with you. No. But this young lady, hell yeah, I'll go.
Let me tell you what, Robert. She can tell you some good stories too, and I can attest to a lot of them. So.
Well, in any case, thanks for having a sense of humor. That's the most important thing in the God green earth. And I thank you for inviting me. And I hope I've given your audience some chuckles. But embedded in them, they're going to find some useful things. I hope. Okay.
Well, next week we're having Mike Hall, and y'all tune in. Mike Hall is a great guest, and you'll really enjoy him. We're going to go ahead and close down now, and everyone, good night.
Good night.
And please, everyone, if you can, please leave us a comment in the comment section. Take a few moments and please do that for us.